several days. Past August maybe, but right about now it doesn't really look like, again, too much that's going to be helping us out. All right, it looks like we are live. Let me just double check on YouTube here real quick. If you'd like to ask us a question, please give us a shout. We are on YouTube Live. We're on our Twitch channel as well, and we are live. It looks like I'm going to be off the news station YouTube channel and back on my own, so keeping an eye on things there. All right, so for tonight, heat and humidity for us, more chances of showers and thunderstorms, and as we go into the next several days, there's going to be some changes down toward Florida and the Gulf Coast. So if you have some changes taking place in your vacation in the near future, you're going to know why in just a little bit, because we have a new storm out in the Caribbean, which may be a problem coming up very soon. Time is just before 10 o'clock Eastern on Thursday evening. Again, I'm Chief Meteorologist Austin Onek from WDEF News 12 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was a very hot election day. Kind of interesting to have one on a Thursday. We'll have the results on that for you coming up on News 12 at 11 in just about an hour or so, so stay tuned for more on that. I want to take a look at what's going on north of us, back up to around the area of I-40 around Knoxville. We've got some pretty potent storms taking place, including some severe thunderstorm warnings for Knox, Sevier, Hamlin, Hawkins County in Tennessee. None of that affecting the News 12 viewing area, but it is possible that we could see the potential of more of these storms developing in the next several hours. It does not look, let me just make certain I'm telling the truth on that. For right now, we do not have anything in the way of the Storm Prediction Center issuing a watch at this time. But some form of damaging threat will be a possible problem for my son and daughter up in Johnson City. May want to keep an eye on those storms coming in from the west, so that could again be a bit of an issue. Thanks to my daughter for sending in a beautiful view of some of the lightning off in the distance, often mistaken as heat lightning. There is no such thing. It's just the storms off in the distance where you can't see any thunder. Some of these storms here over portions of middle, especially northern, central, middle Tennessee, that is where we start to see these storms right around and just north of Nashville, northeast of Nashville now. Back around Hendersonville, south of Portland, and northeast of Smyrna. Some of those, if those hold together, those might make their way into the News 12 viewing area coming up. For those of you who are tuning in and saying, well, where is this coming from? Chattanooga, Tennessee, southeast Tennessee, northeast Alabama, northwest Georgia, and Cherokee County in North Carolina. That is the coverage area of the News 12 broadcast signal, or our designated dominant market area, DMA as it is called. Right now, again, we have nothing going on in the way of severe weather. Not really expecting to see too much. There is a marginal threat of severe weather for portions of the area this evening, so this is where we could be looking at the possible problems out there into tonight. Big picture looking like this. Again, those storms drifting on through, probably going to miss us heading across the Appalachians into North Carolina. These storms over north central middle Tennessee, that is where we could see some of those activities, those areas of shower and thunderstorm activity impacting us. High pressure driving a lot of warm, moisture-rich Gulf of Mexico air up onto the land surface, and that's giving us the fuel for these thunderstorms. But because we're not really being affected by any storm system per se, we do not have anything in the way of huge amounts of showers and thunderstorms popping up, and here's hoping that it stays that way, because outdoor activity is going to be needing some of that for tonight. Hopefully at least a little bit of a cool down, not by much, but over the next several hours, high 70s in Chattanooga is going to be about as much as we're able to pick up for tonight. So it is, again, not looking great where it comes to anything involving cooler weather. Mid 70s are going to be about all that we see for tonight. So definitely want to pack that ice water along just to be on the safe side. We have had some fairly low amounts of air quality out there, and we continue to see that heading from moderate into almost unhealthy territory. Now, some of that is due to wildfire smoke that is local, but we also see a decent amount of smoke coming in from out west. And on the latest model going into the short term, we see what looks to be a decent plume of smoke holding together and making its way toward us. Again, we do have some localized area of smoke taking place here. We do not see too much of anything in the way of a lot of it, but there is some of it sticking around. So that's why we have that haze layer out there that has been all over the place for tonight. We do not have anything in the way of major heat waves coming our way. We will see very warm conditions above normal, according to the Climate Prediction Center here, the worst of the worst down to our south and off to our west. But there is that potential of seeing some very warm numbers coming up. The chances of anything involving severe rainfall, the heaviest amount of rain expected here over the East Coast states, and we'll talk about the tropics in a little bit, but if you're planning on traveling anywhere between, say, the Outer Banks of North Carolina and down towards Savannah and northeastern Florida, this is all due to a new tropical system developing in the Atlantic, and that's where the worst activity should be, with more heavy rain down toward West Florida and the Panhandle, or I should say the Gulf Coast of Florida, in and around that particular area. So we'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. Basically, if you're going to be traveling anywhere down that direction, you're definitely going to want to make certain that you have some changes on the ability to change your schedule if you are traveling, because of the fact that you don't want to be heading into a situation that you're going to be heading back out of again. So for us, we will be seeing chances of showers and thunderstorms coming up as we go into Friday and Saturday. We've removed the chances here because a lot of the computer models are showing an isolated chance of a shower or thunderstorm, maybe a 1 in 10 shot, and that's going to be about it. And then we go back to sunshine all the way through the latter half of the weekend and all the way into next week. So mid to high 90s with all that extra sunshine shining down and giving us a very good roasting. Again, we're not in the triple digits, and that's basically where you have to be before you start talking about record level heat, and that's not going to be going on. It is going to be hot and stifling. Normal is about here on Saturday, and that is where we see that potential of the so-called coolest of the hottest weather coming our direction anytime soon. So best potential of anything there in the way of less hot weather. We've got about a day of it, if then, and I'm not convinced that we're going to be seeing that either at this time. 96 the high for the second day in a row. We came within 3 of a record high, which hasn't been broken since 2006, right below the century mark. No rainfall today. We're already behind for the first day of August, because if we don't get any rainfall on the day, then we manage to wind up with 0, and we're already behind on what we should have gotten by this time of the month. So for right now, we should be, if we would have gotten 0.13 of an inch, we would have been exactly normal, right spot on, but we didn't, so now we're behind on a daily amount. For the year, the lack of steady rainfall, we did have a good burst of rain last week that took us from about half a foot down to about 4 inches behind on rain. Now we are seeing less of anything in the way of major drought, but we are picking up. We're nearing, by tomorrow, we're going to be very close to 5 inches below normal on precipitation. So that is something that is going to be an issue into the next several days. Let's take a quick look here just for a second. I know we had some power outages reported. We had a brush fire earlier, not too far away from the station. That was being handled. I think that was all taken care of, according to Hamilton County 911. 1,000 folks still without power in Gilmer County, Georgia, in the News 12 viewing area. That was from those storms that rolled through about 48 hours ago. So almost everybody gotten rid of the power outages thanks to all the everybody who's participating in that process of getting the power reestablished out there. All right, let's head into the tropics because this just got really interesting today. When a storm is just a wandering mess of rain, clouds, thunderstorms over the ocean or wherever it happens to be, it is just that. It is a disturbance, pretty much. It's not organized, it's not anything else. But what we have here now with this area developing that we're seeing here into around the area of the Caribbean, that's my marker. That's the automatic marker that starts showing up. This is now, because it's starting to get more active, it has now gotten the designation of Invest or Area of Investigation number 97. This moving its way over Hispaniola and parts of the Caribbean. This, again, is starting to pick up a lot more moisture. The dry air surrounding it is not inhibiting it anymore, and we're not seeing anything in the way of a spiral with this. If that had happened, we might have gotten our name of the storm, which I believe should be Debbie for this D storm. We've had A, B, and C so far. This particular storm is, again, active and getting more active, but it is not organized to the point of where it gets a name, so it's still an area of investigation. In the next couple of days, about a 30% chance of development. In the next 2 to 7 days, it's looking like a 70% chance of development. And let me just double check that. Yes, that is the case from the National Hurricane Center. So, oops, hold it. We've gone up to 40% here. So for right now, this is where we're seeing. Let me update that real quick. Technically, it's not much, but I want to make sure that everything is correct on here as possible. So the first 48 hours, we're looking at a 40% chance of development and a 70% chance of development in the next few days. Here's why this should be of note to you if you are going to be traveling to around Florida or the Gulf Coast relatively soon. As we go into the next several days, the varying levels of different computer models laid on top of each other, each showing what one model run thinks. We name them spaghetti models for a very good reason, because they look like a plate of spaghetti after a while. And last 48 hours, most of them were very widespread, taking the storm up the East Coast, into the Gulf, around the Florida backside, the Gulf side of the Florida area, and down toward the Panhandle. Now all those models have done a very good job of coming together and in agreement, which means it looks like things are a lot more agreeable for the potential of anything involving where this storm is actually going. And it looks like once it gets done with Cuba, it's going to be heading into around the eastern Gulf area. So from the Keys, Fort Morgan, upwards of Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, into around Destin and the Panhandle. This is going to skirt very close to that area from what it looks like. And if we go forward on this, and I hope the map stays in the same place, that takes it right over by Sunday evening. The center of circulation should be basically right offshore, if not heading right over Florida. And that's going to take it up and right over portions of the South Carolina coast. That's the majority of the models there going up that direction. Now, that sets up an interesting scenario, because if this area of low pressure, whatever it turns out to be, makes its way up here, air around low pressure rotates counterclockwise. So if this system sets right about in here, we may see the potential of, and you remember that rainfall map I showed you a little while ago? This could shovel a bunch of rainfall up from Jacksonville to the Outer Banks. And that right there in the next, through about Sunday into Monday, that is not going to be good beach weather, not to mention the fact, outside of rain, gusty winds, possible thunder out there, very loud, and anything in the way of beach erosion going on. You're also going to be taking a look at possible riptides as those storms move on through. Now, this is also very interesting because it starts to curve its way and then slow down back to about next Tuesday, right offshore, which means the Carolinas, the coastal areas, could get slammed very well with this particular system. Now, we're also seeing, notice these models down here on the right-hand side that go south of Tampa. It's starting to show a curvature, almost looping the loop and heading back out over the Bahamas and the Western Atlantic. So this is a lot of scenarios to consider. So in the short term, through about the weekend, everything lines up pretty well. But then as we go into, and this is natural, to whereas the farther you go in time, the more disjointed, the different the models become. So we know that Florida is probably going to be in an area that needs to be, this needs to be watched very carefully. But South Carolina, North Carolina, coastal Georgia, the Bahamas, even into the Gulf, just the straight trajectory of the storm might even take it, if it stays on that course, heading for the mouth of the Mississippi and maybe around New Orleans. So that could also be a thing. Now, what happened earlier tonight, the state of Florida declared a state of emergency because of Invest 97. It's not for the entire state, and I just sketched this out just to be a very rough sketch to give you an idea as to what they're looking for. Now, I've done this before to where I have had several people contact me and say, well, they're issuing a state of emergency. Isn't that for like World War III? What are they doing? They're wasting taxpayer dollars. No, a state of, and there are various levels of a state of emergency. If you don't have any experience in emergency management, armchair quarterbacking is not really going to help you on this. There are different levels of states of emergency, and for various reasons, whether it's weather, civil unrest, a lot of other different reasons on there. So for Florida to issue a state of emergency, this clears up government agencies of various sorts, various businesses, to clear the way to get things ready before a storm arrives, to make certain that we've got plenty of supplies, to make certain that we have power repairs standing by, to make certain that we have food and water and rescue units available to move into this area should it become necessary. No, this is not a waste of taxpayer dollars. It does tell you a lot more about what may happen, and it's a good thing that Florida is doing this, because well ahead of schedule, some 72 to 96 hours out, we can make certain that all of our ducks are in a row and make certain that we are ready to go on this. So please keep it tuned to News 12. We'll keep you updated on the approach of this. But here's the thing. If you're heading anywhere between, I would say, Mobile, the Keys, Jacksonville, and North South Carolina and coastal Georgia, I would watch this system with a lot of interest, because here's where it gets really, really interesting. Notice that all the temperatures here from the Caribbean, the Atlantic, into the Gulf are all above 80 degrees. When they're that warm, that means that any storms that roll over this particular area, any low pressure area that settles in here, can get very large amounts of water vapor, of very warm water, sending that water vapor upwards, and those storms can take advantage of these things very much so. But when you have waters like this that are bathtub hot, and this is where it gets really interesting here. Again, see lower to mid 80s here. Take a look at what happens right off the coast of Florida. A lot of these temperatures here, look at the color scheme up here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. A lot of these temperatures from Mobile down to Key West, that's not 80s. That is borderline 90-degree water temperature. My wife was visiting her relatives down in Sarasota about a couple of months ago, and when they went to the beach, they noticed that the waters were uncomfortably warm to almost hot. That is something that a storm system moving over this area can take advantage of very easily. So if you are anywhere from around Pensacola, Mobile, Destin, Tallahassee, down toward the coastline, all the way down to Key West, I would watch this very carefully, and if any evacuation orders are issued, I would adhere them and make certain you get out of this thing's way, because if that hits at just the right angle and just the right time frame, that storm system could undergo rapid intensification. Remember Otis last year on the western Mexico side of the Pacific? Otis went from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in 9 hours because of that very warm water right along the Mexican coast. So for right now, again, it is still fairly far out and heading this general direction, but we do need to watch out and see what is going to be happening, especially if this thing curves off of Cuba, goes across that loop current, and heads for that exceptionally warm water. We could be looking at some possibly very dangerous intensification from this storm. There's no guarantee of that. It's a potential. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Unfortunately, that is a possibility. When we warn people about this, about severe weather, there is never a guarantee that it's going to happen because of various factors in the atmosphere. But looking at this right here, I would be getting a lot of things organized tonight just to make certain that we are ready to go on this. I'm going to be telling my wife's aunt and uncle and relatives down in Sarasota that now may be the time to make certain that you're ready to go on this and to get out of the way should it become absolutely necessary. So something to think about on that. Not too much else for tonight. Let's take a look at our weather picture of the day. Again, it's floral week here. A lot of people sending in pictures of flowers. And in this case, a nice view of a bumblebee lighting on to a daisy. Thank you very much, News 12 viewer April Hewitt from Cleveland, Tennessee, for our Langley Roofing weather window picture of the day. If you've got pictures, please send them in. We'd love to see them. Drop them to our social media sites. Drop them to our website page at wdef.com/photos, or just email them to us at pictures@wdef.com. If you're on this web page, you can drop your picture off, and you can see what other people have been submitting for the Langley Roofing weather window picture of the day. So please drop by and take a look and submit your pictures out there. I didn't have a chance to talk about this too much last night, but speaking of weather pictures, if you are a weather photographer and you would like to maybe go for some worldwide fame, there is an opportunity for you coming up here to where the World Meteorological Organization, the natural sciences branch of the United Nations, holds a calendar competition every year, and they pick 12 pictures from folks all around the world. And if you would like to submit a weather-themed picture, there are rules. It has to be a certain size, and if you'd like to know more about the details, the deadline is coming up 1 month from today, September 1st. If you'd like to know more, head to their website, wmo.int, if you'd like to see more about this particular contest. Really great to be able to take a look at something like this. So if you have the opportunity, please stop by and see a little bit more about that. Okay, if you watched News 12 tonight, you saw our weather poll of the day. Today we're talking a little bit more about severe weather safety, because of the fact that we can get severe weather at just about any point in time. Earlier this week, that proved it, but there is a organization, a group, a practice from the National Weather Service. It is called Weather Ready Nation, or WRN, and a lot of various places and agencies can join on this. It can be anybody in academia. It can be anybody in law enforcement, in various levels of government. It can be a for-profit business. It can be a nonprofit organization. The point of WRN is to get severe weather information out and to know that the people who work in those areas are both letting other folks know about the fact that they are trained and ready for severe weather, to get other folks interested in doing the same, and making certain that we spread more information about what severe weather is and how we can all be better prepared for it. So this is a very great program. It's been around for a better part of about 2 decades, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll talk more about where you can sign up for this if you'd like to do so. That, again, will be available coming up tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But when you join Weather Ready Nation, members who participate are members of the program. What are they called? Contact points, ambassadors, outreach specialists, or those storm people. And I knew I shouldn't have put that funny one on there because that would probably wind up getting the lion's share of the votes, but that was the winner for today. The actual winner was ambassadors. That's what you're called when you are Weather Ready Nation member, part of the program. So thanks a lot to everybody for voting in our friendinroofing.com web poll of the day. Thanks to everybody who stops by our website and takes a look and sees what's going on out there. We're glad to have you along. And again, thanks to everybody for picking up more details about what's going on with the weather from our website. New poll goes up at midnight, so stay tuned for that. And it will be about Weather Ready Nation, so stay tuned on that. Coming up this weekend, if you'd like to know more about astronomy, the Barnard Astronomical Society will be holding their latest star party. This one will be at Cloudland Canyon State Park in the Disc Golf area. That'll be in Rising Fawn, Georgia. So if you'd like to know more about this, it's totally free. You don't need to pay for parking. You don't need to pay to bring a telescope or any. You don't need to buy anything. You just show up, and again, weather dependent. If it's too cloudy, they will postpone or cancel, and you'll have more information about that on their social media pages. So if you'd like to know more about getting your kids, your grandkids involved in astronomy, maybe you're a science teacher that would like to know more about telescopes, maybe you've got a young astronomer in the family, and you'd like to know what kind of a spotting scope, a telescope, would be a good addition to their list of equipment for the holidays. Gift-giving season is not that far away. Neither is cold weather, but that's going to take a while as well. But I digress on that. These folks, knowing astronomy and helping folks to see how glorious our views of the heavens are, planets, galaxies, nebulas, all sorts of neat things like that out there. If you'd like to know more, it's all available at barnardastronomy.org. Great opportunity to learn more about what is going on up there. And again, definitely an opportunity to stop by and find out some great details on there. Think that should probably do it. We've been on for about a half an hour again. That seems to be about our usual amount of time that we spend on here for everything. Let me do one more thing. Almost forgot about this because unfortunately, as we go into the next couple of days, it's not for everybody, but we are going to be saying hello again to school time. And it's been a while since I've had to drag this graphic out, at least since about right before May or so. But for those who are going back to school, this is something that is going to come in very handy. I know I had it here. What did I do with it? Okay, well, I guess maybe I don't have it. That's really something that's also scary. Okay, bus stop forecast basically is going to say for tomorrow, we're not, there we go. Okay, wonder what happened to that. For tomorrow, getting up in the morning, it's going to be humid as heck. It's going to be mostly sunny, and then by the afternoon and the evening, could even be some late morning thunderstorms popping up, but most of the activity should be in the afternoon. If you're a business and you'd like to sponsor our bus stop forecast, we do not currently have a sponsor for this, so if you'd like to get your sponsorship in, call our sales department here at News 12. You can find out more details at our website at wdef.com if you'd like to be our weather sponsor for that particular graphic on the bus stop forecast there. And we have a lot of other sponsorships are available. Nobody's sponsored me here on Weather Overtime, so if you'd like to be the Spatula City Weather Overtime sponsor, we'll be glad to welcome you. Bonus points if you can tell me where that reference came from. All right, that should do it for tonight. We've got very warm conditions tonight, very hot conditions into tomorrow. More information available on our website down at the bottom of the screen, wdef.com/weather. And of course, if you want to email me, aonic@wdef.com for more information on that. Thanks for joining us for Weather Overtime for the first day of August, Thursday, the 1st, again going into a new month. So glad to have you along for the ride. And stay tuned for more with News 12 on air and online. And of course, Chip Chapman will have your forecast bright and early on Friday morning starting at 5 a.m. Eastern, so tune in for a forecast update and also a look at traffic and all the morning's news. Thanks for joining us. Again, this is Weather Overtime from Chattanooga, Tennessee, WDEF News 12, and we'll catch you again on Friday night.